Hello my friends, I am Luke Neller and you are watching Best Replays of the Week. In this episode, a charmed E100, the passion of Halluf, a merciful Patton, and a hit parade of steel wolves. But first, as always, the warm-up. Today's warm-up starts in Redshift. There's a reason why the AMX 1390 is known as one of the best light tanks in the game. In this battle, the player easily deals with the enemy artillery and begins to think that his work is done. But no! Fate and polite teammates give the 90 a chance to show off his best action hero stuff. Charge in like it's a Michael Bay movie and damage everyone. And while you're at it, reduce the cap at 100% when the enemy are already celebrating. Watch and learn, that's how it's done, and we still have more. The warm-up finishes at the Mountain Pass. A Type 34 heads out to protect the bridge at the start of the battle, but when the real action starts, well, it doesn't really start at all. This is what he does the whole fight. That's it. The tank just sits there taking shot after shot, sits in place, exposed to the enemy fire for the whole battle, and win. Can you do that? That's all for the warm-up, and it's time for the awards. This week's Best Defender is a player named One Magister driving his T-57 Heavy. The map is Lakeville, and it's a standard battle. Early on, the American heads out to fight in the city, like any self-respecting heavy tank would. The main fight is elsewhere though, and after a couple of minutes, he has to hurry back and face the results of his allies' bad luck in the canyon. The cap is reduced, but the stubborn Jagdpanther E100 just bounces the shell off his tough hide. Forget it, there are many tasty and nutritious targets here. Now the E100 is really starting to get annoying. How many drums have already been wasted on it? 2? 3? The friendly 704 manages to send the German back to the garage, but is soon killed itself. The lone defender is left alone facing 6 opponents. A furious clash with the T-54E1 leaves both autoloaders empty, and the tanks glare at each other while going their separate ways. The dead German TD still plays a key role in the battle and serves as excellent cover for the American. This improvised bunker allows him to finish off his countrymen with ease. The real problems start when a daring AMX 5120 charges in and leaves the lone defender with a lousy 76 points of health. Not much when there are 5 enemies left, 4 of which have fanned out and are looking for an opportunity to end the battle. Okay, he still has his bunker. The next ones to try are the Waffenträger and the AMX from before. The first one doesn't think that Captain America would notice him, and the second one doesn't think at all. The Cap sees all and doesn't miss a shot. The Foch and the IS-8 are not that stupid. The tense atmosphere reaches its apogee when the Foch finally takes a shot, and immediately leaves to share his croissants with someone else. The Soviet tank attempts to take advantage of the situation, but his shot only tickles the heavy. That's it, base defended. Wait, where is the E50? It's not that the American really wants to meet him, having only 1 shell left, but still, moving to the enemy's base, getting stuck, getting free, and even shooting the sleeping E50. But 1 shell wasn't enough to kill him, and getting here took just a little too long for a capture. One Magister put up a truly heroic defense in an almost hopeless situation. For this, he is awarded the honorable title of Best Defender of the Week. Well done! Once again, there are 3 winners in the Sniper of the Week category. Bronze goes to the player Armageddon, driving his American T-34. The encounter battle in Lakeville was really intense, but he managed to survive the Tier 10 battle and is now peacefully capturing the base. Well, more like nervously capturing the base, because he has barely any HP left and the enemy WZ-111 could appear any time from anywhere. And there he is, coming from a really unfortunate direction of course. Turning the T-34 seems to take an eternity. The American takes a hasty snapshot, and suddenly there is no need for a second one. The ammunition blows up and takes more than 1,000 health with it. Even the allied Jagdpanzer E100 is impressed with the Alpha, and we proceed to the second place. It goes to the player named Elite VIP driving his M48 Patton. As you know, the German armoured barns have a hard time surviving on Malinovka. Once they get spotted, the entire enemy team seems to want to take part in taking down the big and slow vehicles. Our sniper notices an enemy Jagdtiger, who seems to be asking for somebody to put an end to his misery. The Patton doesn't even slow down and shoots on the go. From 500 meters and through a hole in the wall, The APCR shell of mercy finds its target. The German is free to return to the garage, and we proceed to the final sniper. First place goes to the player named Pixel, who is driving the most accurate tank of all, the KV-1S. The accuracy of this machine is legendary, so our prospective sniper can be utterly confident when taking his shots. When it comes to finishing off artillery, he is unstoppable. Not only that, but an ally gets in his way, easily fitting into the huge spread of the aiming circle. But why worry about the details? Fire! Did anyone doubt this? The shell flies between the Stuart's tracks and into the fragile SPG. Great shot! Just remember that this trick was performed by a professional KV-1S driver, so don't try this at home. The top gun of the week is a player named Cute Yak driving his T-34. The map is Northwest. Early in the fight, the Soviet warrior tries to take the role of a wingman and provide supporting fire for his teammates. Unfortunately, those teammates don't just seem to want any help. They want to carry hard. There is no other explanation for their actions. See for yourself. The T-34 kills 2 enemies while 3 teammates go down. Yeah. Okay, so it's he who has to carry. First, a tiny Panzer 1C is crushed by his authority, and the Churchill 3 and a foolish arty is dispatched soon after. Easy enough so far. No time to celebrate. The Allies continue to die as fast as our T-34 gets his kills. A change of flank, and now there is one less enemy to worry about. The KV-1 and the T-34 could be serious threats, but not today. Just 2 more piles of scrap. The minimap shows an enemy approaching the Allied base. Of course he'll turn back. Who else would he trust to do it? Another one down. Another attempt to go on an attack is interrupted by the siren's howl. Okay, enough of this. He's tired of it. The T-34 tells his remaining ally to go to the enemy base and returns to stop the cap himself. And here's the troublemaker. The enemy Hetzer takes the wrong moment to blink and opens his eyes in a burning red. Almost immediately, his last ally shares the fate of the German aggressor. Stay calm. There's only one enemy left, and this Soviet warrior has no intention of losing, especially since his killing power has reached over 9,000. A long drive to the enemy base, a moment of hide and seek, and the last enemy is taken care of. Well done. 11 kills for the player who was practically alone in every encounter for the whole battle. He truly deserves the title of Top Gun of the Week. Congratulations! This week, the Steel Wool category will also have 3 replays. Third place goes to the player named MagnetVash, driving a T-29. He arrives at Erlenberg with a single goal of protecting his base from attackers. Any good guide to World of Tanks will tell you to use your head, and so the American decides to do just that. He heads to the hills, pokes out his turret. It really works. The enemies swarm in front of him, but they can't do anything to the T-29's impenetrable turret as he starts to take them apart one by one. 6,500 points of potential damage and a good use of terrain brings the bronze to the player who used his head. And we move on. The second place goes to the player named Wolverine7878, driving the Black Prince. Like the American in our previous story, this Brit knows what to do and how to do it. He goes to the bridge, picks a good position, shows his seemingly vulnerable side, and waits for any naive opponents. They don't know that the side of the Black Prince can withstand an orbital laser strike, not to mention Tier 7 guns. And so it begins. Everything is thrown at the Prince, including several HE shells from frustrated enemies. The British crew is kept busy repairing the track and other equipment, and shooting back when they have time. Eventually the enemy team runs out of tanks, and the Brit is still there. He's quite banged up, but victorious. And finally, the first place goes to the player called Marone, driving his E100. Another assault at Erlenberg and the same defensive play. Even the flank is the same as with the T-29 story, but there is a small difference. The German drives around the whole map, kills 8 tanks, deals more than 7,000 points of damage, receives about as much in potential damage, and doesn't lose a single hit point. All the enemies manage to do is scratch his paint and break the observation device early on in the battle. The repair cost comes to a punishing 140 credits. But hopefully the player can balance his budget with the title of Steel Wool of the Week and the gold that comes with it. Congratulations. And finally, the winner of the Best Replay of the Week category is called Naumov Giaca, and he is driving the Object 140. The usual opening for medium tanks on Halluf is to drive down to the beach, but this med driver thinks differently and moves closer to the centre of the map. It's fun to take shots at the enemy from the safety of the hill, but the scorching sun does finally convince him to head towards the cool waters. He doesn't manage to finish off the Indian Panzer on the way, but a T-44 does finally find peace. Blind shots have no effect, but he manages to get a good hit on the fast-moving 1390. The player barely has time to settle in for giving long-range support to his allies when an enemy Foch suddenly drives straight into his line of fire. A tracking shot, another hit, and the French crew's coffee machine catches fire. Maybe they should have brought a fire extinguisher instead. The IS-7 can't help his ally, and a second fire is too much for the TD. Another fatal kiss is blown at the Type 61, but the front of the IS-7 is invulnerable from this distance. And then there is no time to aim, when a 121 charges out from behind the hill with obvious violent intentions. Our med driver sets his enemy on fire for the third time in this battle, and wins the duel. The enemy clearly has the upper hand, and the AMX-50B rushes in to end the fight. And end it he does. The 44 is handled by his allies, and the 140 goes hunting for the American Heavy. The Heavy is not alone, so a tactical retreat is in order. Two powerful TD allies help with clearing the flank, but then guests arrive from the north, and the last ally is sent to the garage. The 140 is left alone against two 7s and the roach-like T-54. The 54 is the first to make a fatal mistake. One of the ISs gets several pretty holes pierced on its front armor and gives up the fight. The remaining Heavy doesn't rush into a head-on attack though. Maybe he has a cunning plan. With total surprise on his side, the IS charges down the hill behind the 140. The cunning enemy gets a shell in the back and is left smoking sadly in the hot sun. 11 kills, massive damage of more than 10,000 points, and flawless action during the whole fight make for a great entry into the lists of best replayed champions. We are honoured to award the gold, the medal, and our total respect to Naum of Jaka. Well played, sir. That is all for today. If you don't know how to get involved, the link for How Do I Get On Best Replays of the Week is on the screen. Click those like and subscribe buttons to see more, and I'll see you in the comments. Thanks everyone, and goodbye for now.